Title: Update. My 30M X28F told me she could do better. I agreed. Now she's back, and it got weird. Throw away because my main has people who know her. So, a couple months ago, I, 30M, was dating Samantha, 28F. When we first met, she was magnetic, the kind of person who could walk into a room and make everyone turn their heads. She was confident, witty, and had this energy that made you feel like you were lucky just to be in her orbit. At first, her teasing was playful. She'd make fun of my extremely long staircase at my apartment or my vast collection of footwear, but it felt lighthearted. Over time, though, the jokes got sharper. It wasn't just about sneakers anymore, and it was about my boots, my sandals, my moccasins. She'd drop lines like, "You're lucky I'm with you," or "Nice footwear, Chief," more and more often. I ignored it for a while, told myself it was just her personality. But the truth? I was starting to feel small around her. One night we were at our usual restaurant. Dim lighting, soft jazz, the works. We were debating sushi versus Italian. I suggested sushi. She wanted Italian. This was kind of a weird conversation to have because we were already at a restaurant and it was Mexican. It was such a small, stupid disagreement, the kind you laugh about later. But she leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and with that smirk I'd seen 100 times said, "You know, I could do better than you. LOL." She didn't say it in anger. She said it like she was stating a fact, like she was reading it off a menu. I checked the menu and it definitely wasn't on there. I remember feeling this strange calm settle over me. Not anger, not hurt, just hurt. I looked at her for a long moment, really seeing her, the way she was looking at me like she was already halfway out the door, and I said, "You should close the door, it's cold outside." I didn't raise my voice, I didn't argue. I just finished my drink, paid the bill, and drove her home in silence. 2 days later, I packed my stuff from her place. No fight, no drama. I blocked her on socials, not out of spite, but because I needed no fight or drama. It was actually pretty sneaky, I'm not gonna lie. She was asleep and I farted in her face before I left and super glued her shoes together. That'll show you the value of footwear, Samantha. A few weeks later, I met Claire at a friend's game night. She was warm, quick to laugh, and had this way of making everyone feel included. She had this cool catchphrase she would say all the time. "I'm a bicycle, too tired." She'd say it every night before bed, and it made me want a cool catchphrase too, so maybe I'll come up with one. We started talking, and it was easy. No games, even at game night, no subtle digs. No feeling like I had to prove my worth every 5 minutes. She asked about my job and actually listened. She laughed at my long staircase. She made me feel enough. We started seeing each other, and every day with her felt like a breath of fresh air I didn't know I'd been holding back. One Saturday morning, Claire and I went to my favorite cafe. Haha. We were laughing about her dog wearing human shoes. Silly dog, ha ha ha, it still gets me. It was Samantha. She froze when she saw us. I gave her a polite smile, the kind you give someone you used to know. Walked over to the barista and told him that Samantha would pay for our drinks. Then me and Claire snuck out, leaving her with the bill, ha 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 ha, what an idiot. I didn't owe her anything more than that. And for the first time, I realized Samantha was kinda dumb, to be honest. About a week later, there was a knock. I opened it with my coffee in my hand to find Samantha, dressed like she'd spent hours getting ready, but with no shoes. "Ryan," she started, "I've been thinking, I made a mistake. I miss you. I miss us. I miss your stupid sneakers. I even miss your ugly boots." She laughed weakly, then kept going. "I thought maybe we could start over. I could be better. I would be better. I just..." Her voice cracked. "I don't want to be without you anymore." I glanced back at Claire, who was in the kitchen wearing my hoodie, holding 2 mugs of tea. I turned back to Samantha. "Sorry, my new girlfriend is holding 2 drinks for some reason and it distracted me," I said. "But I'm happy now, really happy, and I think we both deserve to move on." She blinked rapidly, like she was buffering. Then she nodded, muttered, "Okay," and turned to leave. She disappeared around the corner where the stairway was, and I heard a quick yell. Then a thud. Then another. And another. At first, I thought she'd just tripped down a few steps, but the sounds kept going. Thud, 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 thud. A pause. Then thud, 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 thud. It was like someone was rolling a suitcase full of bricks down a mountain. Her purse must have exploded halfway down. I heard lipstick clinking, keys pinging off the railing, something that sounded like a compact mirror spinning in place before skittering away. Then, and I swear I'm not exaggerating, there was a slide. Like a full 3-second body slide, followed by a whump that sounded like she'd landed on her purse. By now, Claire had joined me at the door, wide-eyed. We both just stood there listening to what felt like the world's longest fall. "Hey Claire, why do you have 2 drinks?" I asked. She shrugged. Finally, bang. She must have reached the end, followed by silence. I called down, "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. Okay, bye, I guess. Here's where it gets weird. 2 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this." I ignored it. A week later, Claire and I were at the same cafe. The barista handed me my coffee and said, "Your pale friend was in earlier. She left this for you." It was a small envelope. Inside was a photo of me and Claire at the cafe, taken from outside the window. No note, just the photo. I haven't heard from her since. Update. So, remember my last post about my ex Samantha telling me she could do better, me agreeing, her coming back to win me over, and then falling down the world's longest staircase? Yeah, about that. A few days after the fall, I got a call from my building manager. He sounded weird. "Hey, so, you know that woman who fell down the stairs last week?" "Yeah," I said cautiously. "Well, she, didn't make it." I thought he meant she'd moved away or something. Then he clarified. "She died. At the bottom of the stairs." Paramedics said it took forever and was completely preventable if someone had just checked on her and not said, "Okay, bye," and gone back inside. "I'm talking about you, bro. I saw you on the camera. You just left her there and no one found her for hours. Kinda messed up. Also, why did your girlfriend have 2 drinks?" I just sat there, stunned. I didn't know what to say. 2 nights later, I was leaving for work early in the morning. As I walked past the stairwell door, I heard it. "Nice shirt, Ryan. Haha, fat." I froze. It was her voice. I opened the stairwell door. Nothing. Just the echo of my own breathing. I told myself I was imagining it. But it kept happening. Every morning when I left for work, I'd hear her. Sometimes it was a snide comment. "Wow, still driving that car. Thought you'd have upgraded by now." Sometimes it was petty, "What's 9 plus 10? Once it was just, "You stupid." The weirdest part? It only happened when I was in the stairwell. If I took the elevator, nothing. If I walked past the stairwell door without opening it, silence. I started to piece it together. She couldn't leave the stairwell. She was stuck there. Forever. I tested it. I stood just outside the door and said, "Samantha?" Nothing. I opened the door and stepped inside. "Oh, so you do remember my name?" "Yup." She was bound to the stairs. Oh, the irony. She once complained they were too long and now she is dead. I think that's irony somehow. At first, I tried ignoring her. But she'd just keep talking. She'd comment on my clothes, my posture, my grocery bags. Once she asked if Claire still has 2 drinks. One morning, I snapped. "Why are you still here?" I asked. "Because I love stairs. This is definitely my choice," she shot back. "I'm literally stuck in the longest stairs ever. Thanks for that." I told her she'd brought it on herself. She laughed. The same smug laugh she used to give me when she thought she'd successfully made me cry. Last week I was heading out when she said something different. "You know, Ryan, I could still do better than you." "What? How would that even be possible? You literally can't leave the stairs." But then she added, "IDK, but I will." "Sooner than you think?" I stopped. "What does that mean?" Silence. Then, faintly, "You'll see soon." I thought it would be really funny if I just moved since she was stuck there and couldn't follow me. On moving day, I decided to take the stairs one last time. I opened the door, And there she was. Not physically, but her voice, right on cue. Wait, you can't do that. How will I haunt you? I said, You're stuck here, Samantha. I'm not. She laughed. Except it didn't sound like a laugh. It sounded like crying. Wait a second, I don't think she was laughing. You really suck, bro, she said. I hit her with my iconic catchphrase I had come up with. Haha, my ex died and is stuck at the bottom of a staircase. Then I just kept walking down. She kept talking, insults, jabs, little reminders of our relationship, until I reached the bottom. And then, silence. She's probably still there. What an idiot. Hey, do you guys remember when Eminem said, "Wowzers, I just made a mess in my trousers"? Now that's a catchphrase.